This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology and GNC Week in Review is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. Gotta say, it's really weird to have those intros go and not have any responsibility. Anyway, because they're all pre-recorded and it's very confusing. Anyway, so staying on Microsoft, this week, we finally got word on exactly what Microsoft was doing with new devices. A couple of weeks ago on GNC Week in Review, we talked about some additional SKUs that had been added to the PLUGHITZ commission structure for that promo just there. And so we knew that there was some new stuff coming. The categories gave us some clues, and it does seem like we were mostly correct in our guesses. We've got things like the upgrade to the Surface Studio, the new Surface Studio 2 Plus, which is a very strange name for a device whose port configuration has changed, which means the motherboard has changed, the processor has changed. So I don't know why they didn't just go with a 3, but whatever. It's the Surface Studio 2 Plus. If you don't remember the Surface Studio, don't be surprised, because the 2 came out with a 6th gen Intel Core processor. It's the one that's an all-in-one that has the big movable screen, and Panos did a whole demo like leaning into it and writing on it. Anyway, the new ones, the 2 Plus has an 11th gen Core i7, and it's $4,300. There is one configuration right now. They're like, it starts at false. One configuration. Yes, that's it. Other ones are supposed to be coming, but that still means starts at $4,300. I can't tell you how much I love the design and will never own one, because what? That's too much for a pretty niche computer, right?
Yeah. I mean, what you're paying for here, I guess, is the monitor.
Yeah. Which is beautiful.
Which is nice, but still is overpriced even for the monitor. Like,
yeah.
I guess it's based on the concept that a lot of businesses don't care us, or seemingly don't care how much, because you could build this PC for thousands less, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first using a chip that is almost 2 generations. We are very soon going to see Raptor Lake, which is 13th gen core. 12th gen core has been out for a while. So you would, a Core i7 that's 12th gen core these days, maybe 250. Motherboard, let's say it was a decent motherboard, maybe 150, 200. If you needed to, a terabyte SSD can be had for $90. 32 gigs of DDR4 can be had for $100.
So we're at $650 so far.
Right, exactly.
And of course, we'll get into more details on exactly that topic.
Yes, but like, you could build this for under $1,000. Okay, yeah. Sans the monitor, and then the monitor, maybe, granted, it's a weird aspect ratio, 4,500 by 3,000.
Yeah.
But let's say you were to get a really nice like art, like color quality, 4K 28-inch display. You could do that for probably less than $1,000. So, you're spending a lot to get Surface stuff.
Yeah, and to have have that like the bendy bit, right? That because in all reality, that's the thing, right? That's the thing that makes the Surface Studio interesting. And so you're paying essentially $2,000 plus for that hinge. No, thank you.
I mean, I haven't really looked into this because it's not something that's been interesting to me. Is it possible to just buy a third party hinge like that, put it on a Visa? I bet you can find out. The other wrinkle to this is you don't see a lot of 4K great color quality monitors with touch.
Mhm.
So with touch or active stylus support or whatever. So maybe that's like a little bit of a wrinkle. But I guess I'd like to hear from professional artists. I mean, I guess somebody's buying it or they wouldn't keep making it, who are like, yeah, I want to take my monitor and I just want to bend it down like this and I want to write it. Because I don't see a lot of people doing that. I mean, don't they
So
use primarily Wacoms or they're going to use a tablet?
so so Wacom's got a relationship with Microsoft on the Surface Pens. So there is that. Um, and I know two artists and a video editor who use a Studio 2 and really like that whole like you can almost lay on it aspect of it because it's like having a proper like animation board because you can literally put it into that position, but you can kind of do that with a Wacom too. So I don't know. It's kind of in the same price point as the Wacom drawing PC, which is physically smaller and doesn't have the hinge. So there's definitely a target demo for it, and the three of us are not it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, the Surface Laptop might be targeted at people like us. Granted, I've got the sister here in front of me, but the Surface Laptop is more, a person's computer as opposed to a very
Right.
specific device. And so the Surface Laptop 5 is also part of this core announcement. We've got like normal, there's a smaller and a larger model. This device is the same way. There's an Intel and an AMD option. Interestingly, 12th gen Intel core as opposed to the 11 in the Studio 2 Plus, which is interesting. Thunderbolt 4, Wi-Fi 6, all of the things. 2256 by 1504. So you want to talk about interesting numbers for for screen res. And back to sticking with the 3:2 aspect ratio. There'll be what somewhere starting at 1,000 and 1,200 for the two sizes, going up tons and tons and tons of customization with the Surface Laptop colors and all kinds of things. What I don't know for sure is whether or not there will be a blue one and whether that blue one will have a horrible texture to it, like the last couple of generations of Surface Laptop in blue. It's like trying to type on felt. It's horrible. Microsoft, seriously, listen. I would have a blue one if it didn't feel like a carpet. The black one you can get in normal or shag, but the blue one you don't get a choice in. It's annoying. Anyway, I don't know about that. I'll have to put my hands on one at some point. But yeah, so Surface Laptop, in a pretty standard Microsoft price point for that category, and a whole generation newer processor. I seriously, and we talked about this before, Avram. I seriously think that the Surface Studio is designed by a team in the past. because when the 2 came out with the 6th gen, we were on to like the 8th. So
I think they just have a long lead time or something to do it,
Yeah.
and then they're not allowed to like, mess with it. Like, hey, listen, you got, now I can't. It's hard. Look, I guess people who want the screen, they want the screen. I mean, the best thing that could really happen is, I mean, I guess for people who are trying to do stuff for creative care about this, but like just sell the monitor. That would be the best thing.
Yes.
Just sell the monitor with the hinge, and then let people connect it to any desktop that they want.
100%.
That would be the best scenario, but
Surface Studio Display.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, that would be the best. That would be the best scenario. Just do that, and then, the monitor will last for years, right? And people
And generations of computer.
Right, and then people won't feel as bad about investing it. But it's for a really particular type of person, and if they are part of a large corporation, a lot of large corporations don't mind spending money on stuff that priced. Not any place I've ever worked, though. Every place I work, nickel and dimes, every peripheral, nickel and dimes, everything. But that there.
I want a second monitor. Look over here.
Yeah. I mean, I had to like fight and claw to get a second monitor at my job, but there are companies like I deal a lot with. I go and meet with Lenovo and HP and Dell, talking about like some of the high end laptops that they come out with, and they will use the term exec. Like, can you imagine that? Like somebody like something like the ThinkPad Fold, for example, right? Which is a really, really, really expensive laptop that does not probably not so great for productivity. And I ask, who buys it? Oh, the CEO. Why? Because if you're the CEO, you can make the IT department buy it for you.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't actually have a lot of typing or work because, hey, you have people for that. So
True.
I don't know. I guess there are companies out there like that, that can do that. And if there's something like
This isn't one of them.
Yes. So this isn't something for the executives, but if you're, I don't know, if you're Pixar, I guess you're willing to spend
the
money. But I don't know if Pixar will spend the money because they're probably an Apple shop. I bet most places that are really, really high end, design like that are probably Apple shops. But who knows? I mean, I guess like you said, there's somebody who wants it. So
for sure. I mean, I want it, but I'm not going to have it. And then staying on the weird decisions, Microsoft has combined two of its Surface lines, the Pro, which is the core of the Surface family, and the Pro X, the redheaded stepchild of the Surface family. They've combined them into one line in the new Pro 9. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that the Surface Pro 9, similar but different to the Surface laptop, comes with processor choices, including Intel and ARM. Now, if you have followed F5 Live in the past, and including the Pilch Point, we have had conversations about Windows on ARM. And
for the record, and we were talking about this before we came on the air. Abram, God bless the man, went on Twitter and just basically blasted it. And for example, he said,
you got quotes pulled up. Awesome.
Yes, I do. He said,
I can just read it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what were you going to say? Sure.
All right. He said, well, one of them, I'm not going to read all of them, but the first one, he said, want to make Windows on ARM useful. Instead of being limited to a handful of overpriced Snapdragon laptops, Microsoft should make it run on a wide variety of low-end ARM-powered chips, and then let people install on single-board computers like Raspberry Pi, in parentheses, without hex.
Yeah, because you could do it now with that. You could do it now with a hat. So we have an article on how to do that in Tom's Hardware. But Windows on ARM, which is what you need to run something with a Surface 9, right? The whole experiment of Qualcomm processors on laptops, I feel like, is a total fail. But they just keep trying to make it happen. Like the premise of it is very simple. By using the same type of processor that you use in a phone or tablet, you could achieve better battery life, and you could have 5G built in to the chipset, like you do on your phone. So take what's in here, maybe make it a little bit faster, put some more RAM, a bigger storage, and put it into a laptop. And that means that none of the software that you run, it'll either have to be run through an emulation mode, which slows things down, or developers will have to develop ARM versions of their software compiled for ARM. Not a terrible idea on the surface to bring some competition to base for PCs and say, like, okay, we could have a whole other type of chip when right now up till now it's been AMD and Intel making x86 chips that run Windows. However, the way that the run is, it's been sort of a Qualcomm monopoly. It's been a handful of laptops with Qualcomm Snapdragon chips inside, and they are extremely overpriced. The performance is noticeably worse than a regular Intel chip, and is not much better, if at all. So it's been a complete waste. So, for example, a great example of this would be the ThinkPad, Lenovo ThinkPad X13s that came out a few months ago. So if we look at, this is a Snapdragon powered ThinkPad, the first ThinkPad to have it inside, and it boasts a ton of battery life. And I'm going to look up now exactly what it costs, but I know. So it starts at, what is the current starting price for it? Okay, you can get one for as little as $1,000 on a huge sale, but that's with 8 gigs of RAM. So let's say that's a weird situation. So most of them, though, if you go to Lenovo.com, are over $2,000 for 16 gigs of RAM, 512 SSD, and a 1920 by 1200 display. Why? So for those who are keeping score at home, the Qualcomm version, the Qualcomm ThinkPad, is not way less than say a ThinkPad, a 13-inch ThinkPad with AMD or Intel, like the ThinkPad Z13. So the ThinkPad Z13 can be with these similar specs, can be had for several $100s, lasts about 14 hours on a charge, has impeccable performance. The ThinkPad X13s with these specs at $2,100 lasts 16 hours on a charge. So you're getting 2 more hours on a charge, but worse performance and much higher price. And you've got 5G built in. Let's have a party. A lot of every time I see these talks about ARM processors, they seem to think that people who are buying them are stupid, and that they haven't heard that they can get 5G without having the ARM processor inside the computer. Like, first of all, there are a number of laptops that have 5G modem options. So like I don't know about the ThinkPad Z13, but like ThinkPad X1 Carbon, it's like $150 or $200 option to have a Qualcomm 5G modem put into your, configured in your. There's no reason why you have to have their crappy processor and settle for a subpar version of Windows that can't run all your programs properly just to get 5G. Also, if you're really trying to save money, you could always just use your phone and use Wi-Fi tethering, but which is not not expensive at all. But let's say you just have to have 5G on your computer because it's just open, but there it is. It's connected to 5G. Wonderful. You can get laptops with that option for $150 or $200 more. More. Why would you?
Right.
Why would you want this? This is like trying to make something happen that doesn't make sense. Now, if you were to take that Windows on ARM and say, "Oh, great," just like regular Windows, you can install on like almost anything you want. Great. Then we could see some innovation. You could see some cheap stuff. I'd love to be able to take like one of those really cheap all-winner computers on a stick that runs Android and run Windows on it. Yeah. Great. That's fun. But overpaying for less performance because you claim to have, because you think I'm too dumb to know that I can get 5G elsewhere, not a winning strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the whole concept of theoretically run anywhere was the promise of WinRT, which obviously was never going to whatever, and that was never going to work. But anyway, that was the promise of that, and it failed. And then they're like, "Oh, we've got an idea. How about we do the same thing again?"
Yeah.
This time for sure it's going to be a win. What? It's not working? Who could have guessed that? That seems crazy.
I mean, it's getting incrementally better. The performance is incrementally better than it was.
Thank goodness for that.
It's the compatibility. This is now it can run 64-bit apps or something. It's getting a little better. Sure, maybe you could live with it if all you're doing is using the browser. But why would you pay more money for less performance? Yep. What is this, Apple?
Oh, there was a tag.
More money for more for less. I mean,
the opposite of what was the name of that store? It's gone. Doesn't matter.
I mean, it's like you could buy a Pixel, an Android phone for $500, but guess what? If you want the same processor in your laptop, pay more than you do for the better processor.
Right. And it's not like what we're talking about is Continuum, right? Which there's a conversation to be had with Windows 10 Continuum. You use the phone on a screen, it becomes a computer. Samsung does it, whatever. But right. That's not what this is.
No. It's I mean, look, I think the idea, Microsoft's probably done some nice work on Windows on ARM. If they stop trying to do it to try and sell Qualcomm stuff, and they just started to say like, okay, we want this operating system to compete with Linux or something, and make it as an option so that people can install it on all kinds of stuff, then you might see some innovation. Then you might see somebody take a cheap-tastic, like all-winner brand processor like you see in a cheap tablet, making a computer out of that. Okay, that could be all right, because there are Chromebooks that use ARM processors and
Win 10 IoT Core is not good enough.
No, because that's not the actual operating system.
Right, exactly. It's basically old school Windows embedded.
Right, exactly. So anyhow, yes, they're all trying to make this happen. And, for some people, again, if you're spending someone else's money, I guess it might be okay, but it's not a good setup. Also, what really upsets me, and I had a long talk with my friend Shree from Laptop Mag about this like the other day. If ARM is the future of PCs, then the future of PCs is very bleak, because that means that everything is a sealed box. You can't upgrade anything. You
Yeah.
can't change anything. You can't build anything. That is a very that's a really bad situation, and I hope we don't end up there.
Me too. Me too. By the way, one of my favorite people, Shuri. Yeah. So all of these things are coming in about 10 days. This one, obviously, for too much money on the ARM side, though on the Intel side, lots of people like Surface products. Again, I've got one in front of me. There's a couple of Pros around here as well. Interestingly, there's an RT upstairs, but that's and a Continuum device in the closet, but that's neither here nor there. $9.99 for the one and $12.99 for the other for the Pro, and then obviously, like we said, way too much money for the Surface Studio. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course, hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.